Hi everyone, again, I'm Sean McCoy with JRA. We had the privilege to work with the project owner, LHM, to develop the original concept for what became the Grand Hall experience. For the next 5 minutes, I'd like to provide a quick overview of the project and then turn it over to Drew, whose team really took that original vision and turned it into reality. First, a bit about the location of the Grand Hall experience, Union Station in St. Louis. Union Station opened its doors on September 1st, 1894 at a cost of $6.5 million, which is about $175 million today. The station's unique architecture was inspired by the walled city of Carcassonne in France, as you can see here in this old postcard, and here in this more recent shot of its exterior. The jewel of the station was and is its Grand Hall. With its Romanesque arches, 65-foot barrel vaulted ceiling, mosaics, and stained glass windows, it's been called the most beautiful Art Nouveau in America. At its peak, Union Station hosted 22 railroads, the most of any terminal in the world. At its opening, it was the world's largest train station, and its 11.5-acre shed boasted the largest roof span in the world. In the 1940s, the station hosted over 100,000 passengers per day and really was the gateway to the West, the crossroads of America. It was also the site of a number of historic events, such as this famous photograph of Harry S. Truman. As air travel became more and more popular in the 1950s and 60s, passenger train service began to decline throughout the country and at Union Station. Due to the high cost of operating such a large facility, Amtrak stopped operating at the facility, and with its last train making a one-way departure from St. Louis to Chicago on October 31st, 1978. Turning a station that once looked like this to this. In 1985, after a $150 million revitalization by HOK and the Rouse Company, Union Station was reopened with a 539-room hotel, a shopping mall, food court, and restaurants. It did pretty well for a number of years, and then it fell on hard times. In the 2000s, after a number of investments by a variety of different developers, the retail mall was losing about $1 million per year, and its holding company owed back taxes. In stepped LHM, a local developer and hotelier who purchased Union Station for $20 million. LHM is one of St. Louis's largest privately held corporations and owns 17 hotels, primarily in the St. Louis area. The firm is owned by Bob O'Loughlin, who not only has been in the hotel business for over 30 years, but has also served on St. Louis's Convention and Visitors Commission board for over 35 years. His son Steve is LHM's president. The O'Loughlins are known throughout the greater St. Louis community for not only the quality of their projects and their business staffing, but also the passion that they have for their city. They truly love St. Louis, and whenever possible, they find ways to preserve the city's heritage and promote tourism. So while purchasing Union Station was at its heart, a business decision, they looked at it as an opportunity to preserve and promote a cultural icon. With that in mind, over the past 2 years, LHM has invested over $30 million in renovation projects at the station, including a complete renovation of the hotel, meeting rooms, exhibit space, retail, and outdoor spaces, as well as a return of excursion trains, such as the Polar Express this past Christmas, which sold out in 48 hours. Now, those of you who've seen Polar Express know that Tom Hanks is the star of that show, and as a quick tidbit of trivia, Bob O'Loughlin from LHM actually gave Tom Hanks his first job here in California at the hotel as a bellboy. So from the outset, because the Grand Hall serves as the hotel's lobby, LHM saw the Grand Hall as a centerpiece of Union Station and an important component of their renovation strategy. So work began right away to return it to its full grandeur. Specifically, so this is an old shot of Grand Hall, they wanted to make it more inviting and have a more open floor plan, and to turn it into, from this to this. Now pay attention to these structures right here, and Drew will tell you a little bit later about what those are. So they added more contemporary seating. They also opened a new long bar, which nicely integrates into the historic architecture of the building. But Bob, Steve, and the team at LHM knew that they needed more than just renovated hotel rooms and a nice bar to attract tourists and locals to the building. As Bob told me at our initial meeting, he needed his Peabody Ducks. So those of you who don't know about the Peabody Ducks or the Memphis, the Peabody Hotel in Memphis, Twice daily, they have this parade of ducks, and it's been going on since 1933, and people flock, forget the pun, to the hotel to see the ducks. So that's what Bob wanted. He wanted his Peabody ducks. So as we stood there with Bob and Steve, and we looked at this historic architecture, we're like, we really can't do anything to take away from this amazing history and this beauty. And given its National Historic Landmark status, we couldn't even touch the walls. So we're sitting there, and I said, well, what if we projected onto the surfaces, and that way we can tell a story in a way that really doesn't detract from the history of the architecture, but actually enhances it. LHM liked the idea, and they commissioned us to develop a concept package. Now, at JRA, we've done a few small projection mapping experiences, but we knew this one was just way too complex, just way too unique, that we wanted to bring a specialty partner. We've been working with Technomedia on a variety of projects over the years, and we knew that they had just finished up a really cool projection mapping show down in Puerto Rico. So I called John Misselect from Technomedia. I said, hey, I got a really crazy project. Do you want to join? He said yes, and Drew will tell you what happens next.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Sean. Hello, everybody. On behalf of Technomedia Solutions, I just want to say we are honored that you have recognized us for this project. We also want to thank LHM, Bob and Steve, and Chad Smith at LHM, because they really made us feel like part of the community once we were there, and invited us into their home and gave us really the keys to the castle. It took an incredible team of people that gave our creative director incredible freedom to envision, script, and really create the final experience. And I want to thank them for really enabling us to be able to do that. It took over a year to bring this project to life, and this is just some of the talented people that helped make this a reality. We first started off with doing a pre-visualization model so that we could really communicate to Chad, Steve, and Bob at LHM as to what we wanted to bring to this project and what it might look like. And this is the original video that we pitched them. So our role was to take the initial concept that JRA handed us and evolve it to the best possible experience for both the venue and the clients. Once it was turned over to us, we were responsible soup to nuts, from the creative content, creative concepts, all the way to installation, operations training, seeing the whole way through opening day. Let's take a look at how the opportunity actually came to be here.
When you first walk into the Grand Hall, it's like being transported back in time. You're immediately struck by the size and beauty of this historic architecture. Our goal was to create an attraction that didn't disturb or compete with this architecture, but brought the space to life in an engaging manner.
We were working with JRA on several projects, and I got a call from Sean, very excited about this new project. He explained it to me. We went online, I looked at the space, and together we just thought, we have to do a projection mapping show here.
John came up and looked at the hall, said he could put on a show that was the 3D mapping.
We're working with Techno Media. First of all, we knew we were working with the best in the country. These are folks that have won awards previously, and we knew about their work with the Michael Jackson show in Las Vegas. So we knew they were going to deliver an outstanding product.
They basically said they wanted to create an immersive wraparound projection system for this crazy vault ceiling that I had to see to believe.
I went out to Las Vegas to see the Cirque du Soleil show and Michael Jackson tribute. I was blown away with that. And so when I came back, I said, John, let's take a whirl at it.
Now, the technology behind this is very complicated, extremely advanced, and was delivered on a very modest budget, as you heard earlier. Our team really innovated a couple of different design principles when it comes to this. For instance, we did a lot of what we call self-healing code, that the system will try to fix itself if there are ever any issues. And we delivered something that was, I would say, very seamless and very hidden in a historically preserved site. So let's take a look at the technology behind this.
There was a lot of moving parts to this system that made it difficult to really work with. We had to first come in with a laser scanning team to take a virtual survey of the space so that we could build accurate content that would then line up with the system when it gets reprojected onto it. It's an over 6 million point cloud that we took from our survey. We had to simplify that down, find out where we needed more detail, and bring that out.
Once we have the laser scan of the space, there are photographs which are mapped to the geometry of the scan, and the end result is a model that has both the geometry as well as the color and detail of the actual space.
What was also tricky about it was that it's a historically preserved space, and they don't really want to see any of the new technology that we would be putting in. Really creating this environment without being able to see any of the technology.
The biggest challenge was working with the historic preservation. So we couldn't screw into the brick, we couldn't have any exposed conduit, and hiding all the bits and pieces for the show was challenging.
We had to find clever ways to hide the projectors so that you can't really see it from down below, and you're just wondering where all of this magic is coming from.
We have to do an acoustical analysis of the facility to understand how sound behaves in that space. We were not able to introduce any sort of acoustical treatment, absorption, mitigation, or any of the other things that you can typically do in a concert hall or a theater. We developed positions that we could place the speakers where they would provide excellent coverage for the audience, but remain unobtrusive from an aesthetic standpoint.
So the creative media portion of this project, I think, is really what made it special. We took a beautiful canvas and were allowed to paint all over it with stories, 3D effects, magic, and illusion. The creative media was a very long process for us to really toy with how the space responded to the artwork, and we have a short video on how that was developed.
Jerry was working with Techno Media on a variety of projects when the Grand Hall Experience project started. I knew that they had just completed a really dynamic projection mapping show down in Puerto Rico, so I gave John a call to see if he was interested in working with us on the project.
We worked from day one with Techno Media, coming up with ideas that we thought would tie in with St. Louis and that people visiting this train station would really get excited about.
We wanted to find a variety of content so that the experience for the guests would be ever-changing and ever-evolving. We probably came up with 50 concepts at the beginning and determined what was the best of the best and what was going to be the greatest experience for the guests.
To tell the stories in the way that we wanted to, we had a variety of approaches to the styles we used. One we called cinematic, which we used on a lot of the historical pieces, dimensional, which we used on a lot of the really over-the-top 3D illusions, and several others. But basically what we did was we had artists who brought these different ideas and disciplines to the table. So we were able to accomplish what we wanted to in a very cohesive manner.
And we're fortunate to get John Goodman, John Hamm, Joe Buck, Dan Deerdorf, and Bob Costas all to do narrations complimentary because they love this iconic place and they're all very fond of St. Louis.
When you're creating as much media as we wanted to create, we really needed to pull the best of our team. All of that team had to be singing from the same sheet of music.
We had a variety of artists working on the project, and they all brought something different to the table, which we really liked. Some were actual sketch artists, some were 3D modelers. Basically, we needed that combination to create the expansive experience we wanted that traveled not only through these stories, but also through the art and how the art was presented on the ceiling.
The Grand Hall has such a strong existing character. Finding content that worked was an evolving process. The full size plate that we were working with was 8K. It means that things that will typically work and you can count on in a smaller frame just aren't an option.
We did a lot of testing in the space to really figure out how this was going to come together and to help us through the design process. We bring that information back to our design team and show them the kinds of things they needed to do that were not the typical thing you would do. When you're looking at the content on a screen, it looks very abstract, but in the space, it really, really worked well.
I was inspired to try to bring the soundtrack up to par with what they had done, architecturally speaking. We would mix music first, and then we would add sound effects, sound design, and dialogue, placing them individually into each of the different speakers. And it's just tantamount that we get to do it in the space so that we can place things exactly where they need to go.
We also wanted to honor the space, and we wanted to make sure what we created wasn't just a layer on top of that, but really blended in very well with the architecture.
Creatively, the biggest challenge was to come up with something that was worthy of the space itself and of the huge visuals. The visuals were so big, it was difficult to come up with something that wasn't just loud, but that was powerful.
LHM was great to work with. While the project was part of a greater business development strategy, from the very beginning you could see they had a real passion for their community and for preserving its history.
So we're more than happy with the outcome of the project. It exceeded our expectations. We were concerned because of the vaulted ceiling that the sound wouldn't be right. The sound is exquisite. Everybody comes in, it's a wow factor. The light show is phenomenal, and we're more than happy.
So the shows happened every night. The system automatically starts up at 4 p.m. It goes through a self-check process, and then by 4:30, we start playing what we call sprites, which are little projection map effects, like say around the clock, you suddenly see the clock hand spin really fast, and then it's gone. It really creates, if you catch it out of the corner of your eye, you're like, hey, did you see that? And you get other people to look around, and that basically happens from 4:30 to 5, and then on the hour, every hour until midnight, or if they hold the bar open, it goes on the hour every hour. Now, we've put together a supercut of the shows here, but anyone that has seen this in person, this compares nothing to the actual experience. So you really got to go. I highly, highly recommend going out there and seeing this for yourself to really be immersed in it. But ladies and gentlemen, the Grand Hall experience. Thank you very much. Yeah, we have about 5 minutes, I think.
Yes, we do. Questions? Wow, that was fantastic. Questions?
It's a total of 14 projectors.
The show being in the lobby of the hotel, how does that impact functionality of the lobby itself with the bar and people checking in? Let's say the show is starting at the hour. Hey, I want to check into the hotel. Why is there two crowded people sitting?
Well, it's actually it's a very, very big space, and there are enough paths to get around where if there is a crowd that is stopping and staring and looking up at it, that you can get around there. But it's I think it's considered a public space still. You don't have to buy drinks to watch this show. They come in, see it for free, and usually if it's going to be a packed house, like if they're doing a private rental for the space, they will have stanchions up so that they can redirect traffic. Luckily, the reception is actually tucked away under one of the end caps of the projection, so they can still get around that.
Question in the back. You mentioned that you can use it for private events. Do you offer anything where you can customize for private events to integrate a logo or a special occasion?
Yes, we do. We have a line card. It's actually a profit sharing opportunity that the hotel has to pay for this system or supplement the system and give something to their clients that rent the space. We have a couple of different options that is as simple as a logo insertion to some background animations, or if they really it's we have like option 10, which is a full custom creative show, and of course it says price, call to ask kind of thing. But one of the other things that we are also exploring is a program that's going to be coming up, I think maybe next year, where we have all the 3D models that we could and the artistic guidelines for the space that a college program, a local college program, we could hand that over and give students a chance to do a 3-minute animation and bring their family in to watch it and really make it available to kind of like a public art space.
One of the original concepts with the project, which is technically did a great job doing, is I think you developed probably 15 minutes of content that is when you walk into the space, you never know what you're going to get because these little animations are what's the longest
The sprites.
one?
Oh yeah.
5-10 seconds for a really crazy sequence. So. Yeah. And what you can do, what's also great is LHM for seasonal. So, for example, when you walk in there at Christmas, there's snow falling. It's got the snowmen that you see. So it can really transform the space into really anything that you want.
Another question.
Yeah. What's the typical run for a show, and about how many people usually see it, and are you going to be refreshing it?
The shows, there's right now about 10 different shows with varying themes on them. They run anywhere from 6 to 10 minutes long, and it really depends on the lobby is always fairly busy, and it varies throughout the night. We get anywhere from usually like maybe 10 to 12 people early in the evening, like at the 5 o'clock show, to the bar can be very busy, and it's over like 135, 200 people. It's like a private event as well. As for content updates, that is something the hotel is doing. We have room in the system and the capability to remotely update the shows. For instance, do you want to talk about like Polar Express show?
Yeah, good.
Oh, so when they did this big event about the Polar Express, Tom Hanks was able to help them get the rights to do it. We came back to do a show and custom programming of the lighting system so that everybody would buy tickets, and you bring your kids in their pajamas, and they have a live performer that interacts with some of the projections. And I think we came in and did the show. We programmed it, back in Orlando at our headquarters, and came out and did some of the programming overnight and gave them a whole new show for this special event, and was able to turn that around for very, very economical price.
Another question there in the back.
Hi, I'm just wondering what kind of different trends you've noticed in attendance as a result of the new show. Are there people staying longer or making more repeat visits than before?
I would say the bar, I know, is making a killing in the evenings. And usually, actually, one of the interesting things that came up from developing the shows and the system was a way to kick out the people at night, is to cut the shows, and then all the LED lighting around kicks on at full. But we do get a lot of families that will bring their kids down. It's one of the selling points. Once you check in, they always tell you make sure to come down to the lobby and check out the light show, and that it's different. So you get people hanging around the bar, and it's they have a lot of really nice loungy chairs, and I think they actually changed what chairs they wanted based off of being able to recline and look up at the ceiling. But we get a lot of people that hang around, and they want, we have some fans that know the names of the shows and can narrate back some of the lines from the narrative pieces. So it's really, and plus with all the news coverage that I got when it released, when we opened it, they've definitely seen a spike, along with all of the other renovations that they're doing to that space as well.
Yeah, specifically, as I mentioned, LHM did this as a business decision, and I think that Bob told me that their bar revenues, gross revenue, went to 150% before and after the show. So they're getting a payback.
Excellent. Another question? Anyone there? Anyone with a question? Here, there was one more hand I've seen.
You mentioned that Amtrak no longer uses the station. Is that correct?
Right. There's a smaller station right next to them, but right now there's no passenger trains other than excursion trains that go out of the station.
Okay, I understood it did have light rail that went in and out of there.
I'm not. Yeah.
I've actually taken it. It's there is a light rail station. It's like where the train yard is. You actually go off of the parking lot, and there is a station down there. It doesn't really come through the actual building of Union Station itself.
The point of the question was, now that these enhancements have been made, would Amtrak consider coming back into the station?
I don't think so, and I don't think actually LHM is looking for that. What they are looking to do is develop more themed, excursions that they can own and operate, or through a third-party vendor that really plays into their whole development. Thank you.
One more? If not, thank you so very much, Sean and Drew. Excellent job.